Hello guys, here Mr. G with another video. This time we're going to be talking about the galvanic cell, and this is for the grade 12. So this time we're going to be just focusing on a galvanic cell. Let's just recall that there are two types of electrochemical cell, galvanic and electrolytic. The galvanic cell converts, and that is the most important of definition. The galvanic cell is that cell that converts chemical energy into electrical energy. That is the most important part of galvanic cell. An electrolytic cell is the one that converts electrical energy into chemical energy. So in this case, say you use electrical energy to drive a non-spontaneous reaction. So in this case, we can resume this one that electrical energy, we can say that electrical energy is converted to chemical energy. That is the most important part of this one. So we're going to focus now in a galvanic cell. Now, galvanic cell is made up of two half cells, and remember, each half cell will just have a place where you have an electrolyte, and inside the electrolyte will be an electrode. What is a half cell? It's a structure that consists of a conductive electrode surrounded by a conductive electrolyte. If you combine two half cells, then you make a galvanic cell. Now we have two types of electrodes, and we spoke about this one before, but now we are focusing on a galvanic cell. Okay, so now what electrodes do we have? We have the anode and we have the cathode. So the anode is the type of electrode where oxidation takes place, and that one is in each of them. This one is in a galvanic cell as well as in an electrolytic cell. And the cathode is the type of electrode where reduction takes place. So remember, oxidation is the loss of electrons, and reduction is the gain of electrons. Generally, this is how to write the equations. They have reaction for oxidation and reduction, and this one is straight for a galvanic cell. Now, important, the flow of electron will always be from anode to cathode, and note we're talking about galvanic cell. So let's write the galvanic cell. In a galvanic cell, the electrons will always flow from anode to cathode. In other words, the anode will be the negative electrode. Also important to note here, negative electrode will be the anode, and the positive electrode will be the cathode. That is important. That one is only for galvanic cells. So I hope this one is clear for now. Now, the anode electrode generally decreases in mass. That one is important. We're going to go into more details just now or sometime later, but you need to know that generally the anode will decrease in mass during the reaction, while the cathode electrode increase in mass. Okay, so if we move, let's have a look to this one, what is actually happening there. Let's say, for instance, we have here a beaker. This is a half cell that is in fact connected to another half cell, but let's only look at what's happening here so you get an idea. Now, zinc, for example, is going to oxidize. It's going to be the anode. Right here, anode. Okay, so what is going to actually happen to zinc? Remember, there is also a zinc solution. Now, what is going to happen? Zinc is going to oxidize. So zinc is going to lose electrons. All right, so how does it work? Zinc will lose electrons. It will lose actually 2 electrons. Let's say this is zinc particles. Now, zinc particles will lose electrons. One of those particles will come into the solution. When it loses electron, gets away from the metal. So this one will become now here a zinc. This one is a zinc Zn2+. This one is an ion. Let's maybe perhaps do the following, Zn2+. And then the 2 electrons will go to the metal. The 2 electrons that lost will move to the metal. Okay, and that will be happening over and over. Like for instance, another zinc will come into the solution as an ion. This one is Zn2+, and the two other electrons are going to the metal surface. There we go, another two electrons. Those electrons are going to start now flowing if this half cell is connected to another half cell. So for example, we are going to have copper here. This one is going to be the cathode. And this copper, remember, is in a copper solution. This is the electrolyte. Now, copper is going to be most likely to be reduced. We will learn about that one a little bit later. I just want to know, explain what is happening in each of the electrode, the anode and the cathode. And let's move everything a little bit to the left because it's too close to the edge there of the page. So let's work there. So now what is happening here? Okay, now remember this one is going to be connected. So we are going to connect these two. And we're going to place a voltmeter here. There we go. We're going to connect those two there. Okay? Could be a light bulb as well. So what is happening here? All those electrons that were lost here in zinc will flow all the way to the other side of the cell. So will come here. All right? Will come here. And then the electrons will be now everywhere in this road there. Okay? No sound now. What happened? All this copper solution, the ions that are in the copper solution, remember there are copper solutions here. This copper solution have ions, which are Cu+, are going to be attached to that electrode. All the copper solutions, Cu2+, is a 2+ here, it's copper 2, will go and get attached to this specific electrode. That is why this electrode is gaining in mass, and that, guys, is what is happening. Let's say microscopically it's not 100% accurate, but for you to get the idea of what is actually happening here. Now this circuit is not complete. This circuit is incomplete. To complete this circuit, we have to connect these two cells. And guys, for this one, we use something called salt bridge. We're going to be speaking about the salt bridge, and those salt bridge will have inside another electrolyte. This one is the salt bridge. Salt bridge. Okay? So we're going to, obviously, it must be making contact with the electrolyte in each case. So that is the salt bridge, guys. I hope you get the idea now. And we go here to a more clear way of representing what is happening in the galvanic cell. We have the half cell, which in this case is going to be the anode, and therefore remember oxidation takes place at this point. Oxidation takes place here, and then here is reduction. Okay, so that is important. This one is the different part of the galvanic cell. That voltmeter could be substitute for a light bulb, for anything that can just connect the two electrodes, right? So now, there are important things to note here. One of them is we're going to go to this table before we carry on. There are two tables that call standard reduction potential, and you have two tables which are the same table. One of them starts from ion. Ion, and end up in a lithium. The other one start with lithium and end up with iron. I personally will prefer to use the one we start with lithium. Remember, it's exactly the same table. So here you will have all the half cells that you're going to do, all half cells here, and you have here all the potential difference that we are going to later speak about this table in details. Okay, but if we use this table and you have two reactions like the zinc and the copper, for instance, and then you look for them and they can make you a C, it means that is a galvanic cell, and therefore you are going to write the half reactions using that C. So let's show you how it works, what I'm saying here. We have copper and zinc. Okay, so we are looking for zinc and copper. Where is zinc and copper? Okay, here is zinc, here, and then down is copper. Be careful, there are two coppers there. There is one copper. We're looking for copper 2. Now, if you are able to make a C like I did, so in that direction, like in this direction, It means that the reaction is going to be spontaneous and a galvanic cell can operate. Now, how does it work? If you can do this one, the one on top is always going to be the anode, and the one at the bottom will always be the cathode. All right, so in other words, on top will always be oxidation. If you look carefully to this line, say as you move in up, increase the reducing ability, therefore more ability to be oxidized, telling you in the graph the one that is on top will be most likely to be oxidized. In this table we're using 1B, we're using table B, please, and then this one is reduction. Okay, so in saying that, let's highlight these two words. In saying that, if you have to write the half reaction in the oxidation one, you are going to write the reaction in that direction, and the reduction you are going to write it in this other direction. For example, let's write it down. So half reaction for the anode in this cell will be Zn, you starting from the right to the left, Zn one arrow. If you draw or you write the double arrow you see here, you lose the mark, guys. So this one is equal to Zn 2 plus 2 electrons. That is the half reaction for the anode, and the half reaction for the cathode, you starting from left to right, so it is going to be Cu 2 plus 2 electrons, and that is going to be giving you Cu. Guys, this one is how to use this table. We will coming back to the table to speak about details in terms of this potential difference and so on, but not now. For now, this is what we need to know right away. So let's go back to what we are explaining here. Okay, so we were here, now we know, and we as well know how to write this half reaction. You can see them here. We're going to use the table 1B. Please use the table to write that one. But we did one video of writing those reactions. Now there's something very important here, which is called the cell notation. Okay, so cell notation is a specific way that we use to represent galvanic cell. It's quite simple, and now in this case you need to know the following. In the cell notation, always you start with the anode on the left. Always this here is going to be the anode. What is coming next to the anode, then here will be the electrolyte in which the anode is going to be involved. That one is quite important. You have a double line which will represent the salt bridge. That one is salt bridge. Salt bridge is there, and then we come into this is the salt bridge. Now be careful, that is the salt bridge there. Then we come into the right side. We're starting with the electrolyte. This one here is the electrolyte, and this one is the cathode. This one is always like that, and this is for galvanic cells. Okay, it's very, very important. It's quite simple. Okay, so in this case, if we do the one we spoke about here for zinc and copper, for example, the cell notation could be Zn slash, or one line, Zn 2 plus, and this one is 1 mole per cubic decimeter. We're going to speak about this one just now. Double line for the salt bridge, copper, Cu 2 plus, with 1 mole per cubic decimeter. There we go. Line, and then Cu. Here is the cell notation for this cell we have here on top. It's quite simple, guys, and if you do that, you'll get 3 marks. 1 mark for this part here, 1 mark for this part here, and 1 mark for the salt bridge. There's 3 marks for this one. It's quite simple. You shouldn't be losing those marks. Now there is some important details. Sometimes one of the electrodes could be a gas. Now in that case we use another principle here. If anything of those is a gas, we use platinum as one of the electrodes to make contact. Okay, so that one is quite different and is important as well. We're going to explain that one on example later on. Now, in the cell notation, the anode, that is just right in there. The Soul bridge. Now, there are some functions of the Soul bridge, which I said before when we spoke about this one. I said that we'll come back to speak about the Soul bridge, and this bridge must be fixed. What is wrong with me? Soul bridge. Okay, so what is wrong with me? There we go. Now, what are the functions of the Soul bridge? First of all, is to complete the circuit. If the Soul bridge is not there, the circuit is not completed. So that is important, to complete the circuit, to allow ions to flow through without allowing different solutions to mix. So now what is happening? Allow ions to flow through. Now, what is happening there? Remember, I said there is an electrolyte of a different type of ion. This one here will be increasing in a positive. You can see that you are adding positive ion to the solution all the time. So this solution, this zinc solution, will become more positive. So a negative ion from here will flow into the solution. Negative ions. So will start flowing here in this direction. And then this direction here, this other solution on the other side will be decreasing in positive, will become more negative. So positive ion will be flowing in this direction. These are positive ions coming from the Soul bridge. That also will allow the solution to become more neutral, so maintain electrical neutrality. That is what is happening there. Okay, guys, and this is everything about Soul bridge. Quite simple. We also learned that, okay, that one is important, and then we're almost done. So that is the video for today. We spoke about galvanic cell. The most important thing we're going to practice, there are more details, but eventually we will learn about those details as we practice some question. This is the most important thing of a galvanic cell. We are going to say, as I said, as we practice question, we go to some details that you only notice when they certain question. We're going to do a couple of questions next videos, and then I hope it helped. Guys, I hope it helped. This one is just a very clear, maybe not the most accurate explanation, but I hope it's clear. I hope it helped. Thank you for watching. Thumb up, subscribe for the channel. I'll see you next time, Mr. G here.